A very warm welcome to Daily Dispatch powered by HSBC. I'm Priya Shade, and joining me on this very interesting conversation is a panel of women who we've all looked up to over the last couple of years. They've really carved a niche for themselves in their fields of expertise. Join me in welcoming Naiyya Saggi from the Good Glam Group, and we have Upasana Taku from MobiQuick. Thank you very much, women, for joining us today. I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a women entrepreneur. When you look at the landscape, we've been seeing so many women coming to the front, leading businesses, and you've done the same in each of your respective businesses. Tell us a little bit about, what it means to be a women entrepreneur at this point in time. Let's begin with you, Naiyya.
I think it's a very exciting time to be a woman entrepreneur. And, I think we've all gone through this period of sort of internalizing whether we want to be called a woman entrepreneur or want to be known just as an entrepreneur, right? Or a woman CEO or a CEO. I think there's a lot of internal debate that I think we've all gone through as women leading companies. Where I've come out on this one is, I'm quite proud now to be a woman entrepreneur because I realized that, the women I interact with in my teams as well as, other sort of fellow women CEOs have had very specific challenges as I, right? So I think there's something quite special about being a woman and being an entrepreneur in today's time. I think the other really exciting thing before us is that I'm seeing more and more funding come to women-led ventures and startups. That said, of course, numbers are still very low. I think out of the 136 odd unicorns that are there in India, I think only five or six are led by women founders. So there's a long way for us to go, but overall very, very optimistic for the future.
Upasana, what's your view on this?
My view on women entrepreneurship and how that's changing. I think aligned with what Naiyya said. I think it is still hard to be a founder, an entrepreneur, period, regardless of your gender. I still believe it's slightly harder to be a woman founder. I definitely believe it has become slightly easier in the last decade. But all the stats, whether you look at global stats, Indian stats, female participation at founder level is still sub 10%. And is it amazing that we have now 4 or 5 large unicorns and even one public market company which is run by a woman? Yes, it's amazing. It's exciting. We need many more role models though for the percentages to change. They are nowhere close to being close to 50%. I think we'll all be happy even if we get to 25% first. But I think that's sort of the goalpost. Things are getting streamlined, but there are definitely, areas where we can all improve as communities, as leaders, as women. I definitely think that shying around the issue is not helpful. I think we need to all be evangelists and make the roads easier for women that are coming up. Whether it is in the workplace or trying to start their companies or trying to scale their companies. I think we all need some help because the other side of the table is very dominated by men.
Absolutely. Very well said. Naiyya, coming back to you, I want to talk a little bit about the kind of stereotypes that women deal with when it comes to the business world. There is always this box that women are put into when it comes to, be it things like women can't understand finances, can't understand numbers, or, when a woman goes on maternity leave, then it's difficult for her to bounce back. There are these stereotypes and boxes that women are put into. How do you navigate through these challenges? How do you step out of these boxes that have been created by society?
Priya, I think this year's Women's Day theme, Break the Bias, was a very, very important one. And I genuinely feel that. Why? Because, as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurship is a game of two things, right? It's about people. So the people you're building with, people who are backing you, etc. And it's a journey of confidence that you have in yourself as an entrepreneur. When you have inherent biases, right? That unconscious biases or conscious biases that, that you come across as a woman who has ambition, aspiration, it impacts your confidence quite massively, right? When you don't get the opportunities you think, you set out to deserve, right? And you wonder whether it's an issue of your capability, right? I think that's a death knell, right? For someone who's setting out, and anyway, it's a very difficult journey, as Pasna said, right? So I think it's important to call out what these biases are, first of all, to address them, to know that they exist. Because many times you don't even know they exist. And I'll tell you a few that, personally I came across, right? One was, of course, and I've shared the story before, coming back from Boston and basically going in and saying, I want to build this big, large, impactful company, and being told that what happens when you become pregnant, right? Secondly, being a sole woman founder, in building out Baby Chakra, being asked, well, I mean, then where is your male co-founder? You need a male co-founder. You need a co-founder for sure, and let it be male, ideally, right? Being told that very many times in very many conversations. Walking into IC meetings where the deal was pretty much done, and one specific IC meeting I remember where I was told that come back in a quarter, right? I mean, what would change in a quarter? I mean, the only thing was I was about 8 months pregnant at that point in time, right? So where is this coming from? Because the numbers don't change that much in a quarter. But that said, as well, Priya, I think I've also found amazing backers and believers. So, there was another IC meeting I did in my 8th month of pregnancy where I actually got my documents closed. After that, I had my SHA signed. I actually got in funding for the company. So things are changing, Priya. I think that's just the one thing I want to keep talking about. I think two things we need to do is that as organizations have very concerted efforts to address unconscious biases, maybe have workshops, maybe talk about it, be vocal about it, right? And I think number two, create safe spaces for women to be able to address it when they come across it. I think these are two things we need to do as leaders in organizations very, very concertedly.
Absolutely. Upasana, being a leader in your organization, what's the kind of, roadmap that you've set for yourself when it comes to gender parity, when it comes to bringing more women into the organization? What's your outlook out there?
So, interestingly, I mean, you asked, I think most women-led companies definitely, work on this agenda in a serious manner. And I'm sure whether it is with Naiyya or with any of our other peer female founders, you will find that the inclusive percentage or diversity percentage with regard to women will be much higher than average companies. That much I can guarantee you without even looking at the numbers. It's because there is a strong ambassador for that cause in that company, as opposed to several, well-established companies where they have to work harder to break the bias, to break the gap. And the solution to that is very simple. And I'll illustrate some of the things that we focus on. So, any role that we hire for, we ensure that the recruitment team knows that when they bring shortlisted candidates, let's say they get 10 shortlisted candidates, if I don't see even one female CV, then I will ask questions like, मतलब पूरे इंडिया में तुम्हें एक भी woman applicant नहीं मिला, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता, unless it's a very, very specialist role in which the percentages are anyway, the participation is very, very poor. In most cases, you should have at least some percentage of resumes on the table. So that's one question that anyone can ask at any level, and that will just help you. If you shortlist more women, then you have the chance of interviewing them and therefore closure. That's one. Second thing that we look at is this whole thing about maternity. At some point in life, men and women choose that they will get married, and after getting married will or will not have children. So if it is not, men are not judged when they are soon going to have a child. So why should women be judged? Now, of course, I know that women are the primary caregivers for a newborn, but that's for, the first few months, and then, things start evolving. So to that extent, we have created a fairly strong comeback from maternity program. So quite a few, women in our company are in engineering, data, product, and sort of our core tech roles, in addition to marketing, HR, where in general, there is a higher percentage of women. So in these roles, we've seen women grow from their late 20s to their early 30s and have children. And we have a strong focus on bringing them back. We don't want to lose anyone. And I have found this cohort to be extremely, effective and productive for the company also. Sure, they are gone for a period of time. And, it's a difficult balance to, how do you bridge that gap? Do you hire someone? Do you distribute their work? But when they come back, most of these women have been working all their lives. So, while they want to raise a family, it's not as if they want to sit home and, their idle minds, they get crazy. There's no intellectual stimulation. So when they come back fierce. They come back with focus that, I'm not going to let this stop me in my career growth. And I want to come back, get back to my baseline job. And sometimes I've also had women come back and say that, give me a bigger role than what I was doing when I left, because I'm ready. And I'll be like, are you sure? Don't you want to take a slightly easy till the child is like, 6-9 months old, and then take a meteor role? And they're like, no, we think we are ready, and we don't. It's that junoon that I want to showcase that just because I'm a mom doesn't mean that I don't have brains and I can't work hard. And it's proven to be amazing for us. I mean, the percentage of women that come back and get support from their organizations, are allowed to grow, their retention and their effectiveness for the company is amazing. So this is one sort of theme that I would strongly propagate for people to adopt. And the third thing actually is, and I've not cracked it, I also need to figure out how to do this, is as part of career growth, and I don't mean annual appraisals and asking for more money, but more about thinking long term and where can I get. And this theme or this aspect is focused on getting more women into the CXO roles or the senior leadership roles. And while we have, I would say, at least 5 or so people at the VP or senior director level, I think how do you get more people in the senior leadership role is another aspect I'm struggling with. And there, I think it has a little bit to do with enabling the women from the, let's say, manager, senior manager level to start thinking the long journey. Like, where do I want to be in 2 years? Where do I want to be in 6 years? And in order to get there, what do I need? And sometimes I believe it may need, taking expanded roles, getting a little bit of additional education or upskilling via, meeting people. So I think a little bit of, there is some gap there, and maybe we can ask Naiyya also what she thinks about this. But I definitely think there's a little push and nudge required to, for women who are very capable, but they get stuck at a certain level, and then to push them into the next level, it should not be something that the CEOs and the founders of the company should necessarily be asking them. It should also be something that they are also vying for, that, I would like to become an SVP, or I would like to become the C-level employee.
So, I think it's also about this whole point that we discussed in the very beginning, the role modeling, right? I think in organizations that already have a lot of senior leadership and leaders who are women, the women who are maybe sort of now coming up the ranks, right? I think they know there is no sort of ceiling to their ambition. And just on that, I think we were very lucky, Upasana, now that you mentioned it, I think at the Good Glam group, it just so happened, I guess, but I mean, of course, it's more concerted as well. 2 of the 3 co-founders are actually women, so Priyanka and I, right? On our top level leadership, our CEO of brands is so clean, amazing woman. She's just come back from mat leave, by the way, she's twins, right? The founders that we've had the privilege to partner with are women, so Malini, Malika, so I think what has happened, therefore, maybe at the group here, is that we've had a bunch of sort of senior leaders already who are women. And I think that's perhaps helped us get a much more like equal sort of in representation workforce and team than we normally would. So that's actually, I think it's it's made me think as well, like what would have caused that to happen perhaps a little bit more naturally at Good Glam. But I think we still have a long way to go. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's something, we were in a town hall yesterday, and there were women who were speaking up, about some of the biases that they still face, right? And how to address it and to be more confident about demanding what is their worth in work settings. I think these are real challenges. We have to think this through together.
Absolutely. I think both of you have put it out so beautifully. And I think we should definitely celebrate the spirit of the women out there, both as an entrepreneur and somebody who's coming and restarting their career after leave or any such sabbaticals taken. I have one final question for both of you. Naiyya, let's begin with you. What kind of tips do you have for budding female entrepreneurs? 2 or 3 tips that come to your mind. And then we come to you, Upasana.
My favorite tip, and I think the only thing that basically works for me as well, is just don't ever give up. I think many times, I think all of us go through ups and downs as entrepreneurs, as women in teams. And I think the important thing is to keep going. And if you're having a really crappy day, just to call it a night, go to sleep the next day is always better. So pretty much disengage from something that's really impacting you at that stage, but come back, always bounce back, be resilient, have grit, have determination to see the journey through. I think that's my first, it's just my motto in life as well. And I've seen it work for what it's worth. I think the second thing is, demand your worth. Many times we don't demand our worth, we hold ourselves back. And this is, of course, not our fault. It's because of all the conditioning we go through when we are growing up, right? About being a certain type and, like having a certain voice, right? I think, reflect, be objective, but demand your worth in every setting, be it at home or be it at work. And I think the third is be brave. Uh, don't have regrets. If you, I mean, when you look back at your life, you have one life. If you haven't taken that shot, that opportunity at what you wanted to do, I mean, you'll regret it later, right? So just be brave, put yourself out there. Worst, what can happen is you'll fail. Big deal, you'll come back. So I think these are the three things that basically lead people to think about.
Thanks for that, Naiyya. Upasana, let's come to you.
Yeah, I think three things for women who are just getting started with their startups. First thing is that believe in yourself. Be confident. Overconfidence, arrogance not required, but low confidence, self-doubt is also not required. We are all capable women here. If you've done the research, diligence, figured out what your roadmap is, what your initial team is going to be ballsy and be confident of yourself. That's the number one thing. Because if you don't believe in yourself, then you will not be able to convince your team, potential investors, partners, anyone. So that's the first thing. And many people will say, back off, no, ye nahi kar sakte, you shouldn't be doing this, who would do this? I mean, I can tell you when we were getting started 12 years ago, there were 10 million digitally paying users in India. Like the whole world that I talked to, anyone I talked to, including my own family members, said that you're mad, India runs on cash. Why would anyone need a digital wallet? So if you're trying to do something and you're a little ahead of your time, it's okay. Just be confident. Second thing I would say is that what Naiyya said, don't fold your cards that easily. Anything in life, whether it is, your passion, your hobby, whether it is your work that you're trying to, rise in, whether it is your marriage, like everything is a long game. There's no short-term success and there is no overnight success, right? Like the whole world was going gaga over the Bumble founder when she took her company public, or over Falguni when Naiyya went public last year. But I mean, it's not as if that they just started a year ago, right? They've all been working towards it for years and years, and probably have seen like brick loads of rejection and bad moments in order to reach where they've reached. So I think that is sort of the second important thing, like persistence, and be ready to sweat it out there for the long term. And third thing is that don't take your startup or yourself too seriously. Life is too short, and this is very much, this thought is very much impacted by the number of people that I've seen pass away in young years due to heart attacks, due to stress. And we had Pankhudi, going away in the last few months itself. So I think it was a big jolt. And I think men and women, whether working in senior roles in MNCs or in startups or as founders, we take too much stress. Yeah, ultimately, business hai, company hai, it's not your identity. Your life is worth much more than taking stress over that, this thing didn't happen, or some competitor got ahead of me, or this round fell, or whatever it is that is bothering you. At some point, it's okay to, just keep the problem aside for the day. And, that is an important skill to develop, to set the problem aside for the day and do whatever gives you joy, whether it is running or hanging out with friends or playing poker or watching a movie, whatever it is. You need to completely disconnect from a major problem at hand. That's the way you maintain your sanity and your health and play the long game. So it's important to be happy and hearty while doing it. Like, Rome was not built in a day, and neither was Rome built by a single person. So you need your entire village supporting you. But at the same time, you also have to make sure that, you know what is it that you're sweating over. So nothing can be done overnight.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies, for this lovely conversation and all your wonderful insights and experiences. Really, tips are going to help all the budding entrepreneurs out there. So thanks so much for your time, and thank you so much for being a part of the Daily Dispatch.